Hello, my name is Mark Smith, and I'm the founder and the director of Family Tree Counseling Associates, a large marriage counseling practice in Carmel, Indiana, just north of Indianapolis. And I am the author of Managing Abandonment Issues Through Recovery. I'm going to be speaking today about how insight and awareness into your abandonment issues can help you manage your abandonment reactions. Abandonment issues can't be cured. They can't be like cancer. You can't just cut it out and hit it with a little bit of chemotherapy and then you're healed. Abandonment issues are more like having diabetes. It's a lifelong condition, and it's something that needs to be attended to, and you need to take good care of yourself and do work on yourself, or it can regress. So let me start by giving the example. I'm going to call them Joe and Sue. Came to me probably about 9 months ago, and the presenting problem was they kept having ugly fights. And Joe was imagining that Sue was up to no good, that she was having an affair. At some point years ago, there was a little bit of flirting that went on via email, but she hadn't had an affair. But his imaginings around her little email emotional affair just made him crazy constantly. If she went out with her girlfriends for drinks or to a movie, he was on pins and needles, and he would drink to deal with his pain, and then she'd come home and he'd accuse her of being up to no good, and they'd have horrible, ugly fights. In one of the fights that they had, she told him to leave, and he told her to leave, and so he started loading her clothes into her vehicle, and she grabbed his clothes and threw them out in the yard. So you can sort of get a sense of the volatility and the angst. So this couple came in, and we spent the first 2 sessions researching their family background, and we call it a genogram or a family tree. And I found out that there was severe abuse and abandonment in her background, and also there was more subtle abuse in his background. So they came by their abandonment issues honestly. The 3rd session was a feedback session for an hour and a half, and I explained why he was reacting this way, why then, as is typical, she has a lot of shame. When she feels attacked or accused, she shuts down and distances, and then he feels all the more abandoned. So this couple was right on the verge of their relationship ending. But Stephen Covey said, if you want to help somebody quickly, change how they think. So I gave this couple a new GPS system. I gave them a new roadmap that says, the paradigm isn't he's crazy and I need to get away from him, or she's going to cheat on me and I don't trust her, so I need to get away from her. I changed their paradigm through therapy to, hey buddy, you're irrational. You have abandonment issues. You project your insecurities onto her, and then you act ugly and mean and intrusive and irrational. And with her, it was, you're not a victim. You picked a needy fellow who has abandonment issues, and then you had an email affair. and you have shame, and you distance, and you really shut down, and then you abandon him. So there's no victims here. They're just two people who are the right people for each other. So then month 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the fights were still pretty raw, still pretty ugly. I had both members of the couple go to groups. She went to a codependency group, even though actually he went to a men's group. He was actually the more codependent partner, and she was the opposite of codependent or counterdependent. But they learned about setting boundaries and having a voice. He read the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it helped him work on his male version of codependency. And the more insight they gained, the less reactive they became. So the last couple of sessions that we've had, they come in and I say, well, what shall we work on today? And they look at each other like, well, nothing's really going on, too bad. And then finally he spits out, well, there was this one thing. And the one thing was, little examples of abandonment in his head that he didn't even talk about. Things that had happened the weekend before or 2 weekends before. So then he prefaces the issues that he wants to discuss, and he says, you know what? I know I'm a little goofy. I know that I project. I know that this is my abandonment issues. However, I do want to point out that when we were at the party the other day, it seemed like you went up to talk with your girlfriend, and there was a bunch of guys around. And I found myself wondering, are they flirting? Is she getting their phone numbers? Is she going to start something up with one of those guys? They look like they're cooler than me, better looking than me. She'll probably want one of them instead of me. So he brought that up, but he didn't bring it up reactively, and he didn't bring it up in an accusatory manner. So she didn't get defensive. She said, oh, well, God bless you. No, honey, I wasn't flirting. I was just going over there with my cousin. Now, she was flirting, but I can't control that. And I didn't even notice that there were guys over there, be quite honest with you. So, no, I don't have their phone numbers. I love you. It's all good. And he just needed a little affirmation. He just needed sort of a psychological hug. And so that was that. No fight, no reactivity, no ugliness, because he understands his abandonment issues. He's not projecting his stuff onto her. So that kind of insight is really helpful. So let me contrast that to another couple. I'll call them Mike and Beth. So Beth has a lot of abandonment issues. She has issues when he's close to his kids. She feels abandoned. So one weekend, he spent some time with his kids. So she began to nag and to be explosive and to call names, to even be reactive in front of the kids. And Mike did name her issue. He said, well, these are your abandonment issues. And to which she replied, screw you, buddy. You don't know anything. So, and then at that point, rather than staying detached, Mike then shut off and he distanced. He shut down, shut off, and that so her fear that he would abandon her became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So then they come into the session, and it wasn't a very productive session because she spent the whole time sort of pounding on him and wasn't really listening to me, pointing out her abandonment issues. It was sort of, let's come to therapy and reactively beat up your spouse. So people like that, if they're so stuck in their abandonment issues and their reactivity, I can't really help them. I can confront them. I tell people I can use a scalpel on your defenses, or I can go out back and get the jackhammer. Doesn't matter to me. I'm equally adept with both. But spent an hour with the jackhammer with her, and I don't know that it did a lot of good. She's the kind of person that she'll go home and think about it, and that will help her get some perspective. But in the moment, it wasn't real helpful. So you want to be more like the first couple, Joe and Sue, not so much like Mike and Beth. So the way to get insight, perspective, the big picture when it comes to your abandonment reactions, the best way that I know that you can do that would be to purchase my ebook, Managing Abandonment Issues Through Recovery. In Indianapolis, we have sort of a famous commercial that goes on, has been going on for 30 years. It's a place called Don's Guns. And there's a long-haired older gentleman with, it looks sort of a little bit, sleazy in a way. It looks like a used car salesman. And he goes like this, and he goes, I don't care about money, I just want to sell guns. And so I use that example about my book. I didn't get into the ebook writing business to make a ton of money. I got into it to help people. And it would do me great pleasure whether or not you hear this, watch this video in Australia or in South Africa. And I have had people in South Africa and in Australia buy the book. I don't care where you're from. I just know it'll help you. And I know that there's 20 clinical examples where I go into great depth talking about how abandonment issues impact and affect people. So I would strongly encourage you to download the book. I can't really tell you the price because I'm playing with the price point a little bit. It's been anywhere as high as $19.95 down to, if you buy it today, it's a lot lower. And I don't know where it'll settle in because I'm sort of new to selling books over the internet. However, I am not new when it comes to understanding abandonment issues. I've been a therapist for 27 years, and I believe that I am a world's leading expert on the issue of treating abandonment issues. So you can get the book at familytree.com. About a third way down the page, you can click right on the book image. It'll take you to a page on our site that has tons and tons and tons of information and videos and articles, and then you can click and go to the ClickBank store and purchase the book. So having perspective can keep you from ruining your weekend. It can keep you from ruining a date. It can keep you from having ugly, ugly fights where you say things that you regret and where you embarrass yourself in front of family members or neighbors. So get the book, read it 3 times, study it, make it your Bible on treating your abandonment issues. It will help you immensely. So I wish you much success in your couple work and in your individual recovery work from your abandonment issues or from being in a relationship with somebody with abandonment issues and you're more the distancer and the person who gets defensive. So good luck in your work. Enjoy the book. Thank you very much.